Commandment number 10. Enough seriousness. We got to chill a little bit. V'lo yisach moed eishes reyecha v'lo yisaveh beis reyecha sadehu v'avdoi v'amosoi sharoi v'chameroi v'chol asher l'reyecha v'lo yisach moed eishes reyecha. Do not have chemed for the wife of any of your re'im. Watch the previous video for understanding what the word re'im means. That's for commandment number 9 video. And do not have a taiva. Do not have a desire. Do not have an urge. Beis reyecha, for the house of any of your re'im. Sadehu, or his field. Va'avdoi va'amosoi sheroi v'chameroi, or his manservant, his maidservant, or his ox, or his donkey. V'chol asher reyecha, and anything that belongs to reyecha. Again, want to know the word? Previous video number 9. Your friend, essentially, but we discussed it there. Here too, what does it even mean in our society? Now, because over here it separates it, like I said earlier in the Ten Commandments series, there's 2 versions of the Ten Commandments, of this kind of Ten Commandments. There's other ways to see the Ten Commandments as meaning something else. Way too long for this video. But in the other version, it's divided differently, but we're using this version from Deuteronomy. So, do not have chemed for your friend's wife. Chemed. Do not have pleasure, a desire for your friend's wife. And this harkens us back to number 7. What even is a wife these days? What did it mean in those days? What is it this days? And what is the Edenic ideal? The ideal from Eden, the messianic ideal? Great questions. When it comes to the wife thing, let's talk about the two extremes that both work. The 2 extremes. One extreme, and this is to a very large degree practiced among Orthodox Jews, and to an even larger degree among Orthodox Muslims, is that any woman who is not your wife, or your mother, or your daughter, you have almost no contact with. Most Orthodox Jews, ultra-Orthodox anyway, they won't even hug beyond a certain age. They won't even hug their sister. I don't mean to get that far. My point is how extreme this business is. But certainly somebody else's wife, it's an issue. It's a problem. That's one extreme. And even all of them don't go nearly as far in the extreme as they could have if they truly wanted to. Well, let's not. Again, number 7 is a long video. You can check that one out. The other extreme is the Edenic ideal, which they tried in the 1960s, but they also tried no leadership in the 1960s. And therefore, when there's no leadership, bad guys become the leaders and the whole thing falls apart. Means sex is not a big deal. Male, female, it's cool, it's fun. You know, heterosexuality is built into the system. It's what we are as humans. You are either a man or a woman. And there's a certain magnetic sort of delight and possibly even, it's magnets. There's an attraction, repulsion. It's complicated. It's a game. It's a play between males and females. Great. Thank God for giving us this cool little thing. How awesome is that? And the idea of the 1960s was each person is their own independent God. Forget the whole husband-wife thing. Just be what you is, and if you happen to have coitus and whatever, they ignored the fact that, of course, that's where babies come from. And therefore you're going to have problems that go on generations worth. But at least in the Edenic ideal, remember in Eden, nobody was born before the whole clothing thing showed up. Before the whole eating from the tree of knowledge, good and evil showed up. Does it mean they didn't have sex with each other? Again, not getting into the whole Eden thing, take too long, as with all the things we talk about here. But that is very close to a 1960s ideal of equality. See, the curse that was given was, of course, in those days, the men are the ones doing the labor to bring in food, and Adam was told, it's going to be hard for you to bring in food. Kaitz v'dardar tatzmiach lach. You're going to have to deal with thorns and thistles, just if you want to eat. And for the woman who he is feeding, right, that's how things work in ancient times, Eli shech chukasech, your passion will be for your man, v'hu yimshalbach, but he'll own you. He'll rule you, which has been the case through most of human history. Today, now the pendulum has swung further afield, where if you're a male, you're screwed. in our society, in America anyway, being white male is extra screw. If you're an average, obviously if you come with certain privileges because of your malehood or your whitehood, then sure. But if you don't get extra privileges, you're just equal with someone else privilege-wise, yeah, you're screwed. So this is not correct either. There is an Edenic ideal, like I pleaded in number 8. We need to understand what the Bible is, and you're not going to get it from your usual sources. You're not going to get it from someone who did not take seriously, as I did, all of the different things that humans take seriously. I ask strangers on the street, tell me something that you believe, but you wouldn't tell anyone else because everyone else thinks it's crazy. Not crazy people on the street. When I meet somebody, I talk to people all the time. I meet somebody who's highly intelligent. I ask them for an example like that. Anything someone else has taken seriously, I've taken seriously enough in conversation with them to investigate. And I hold the Bible in pretty high esteem for having something important to say. Or more importantly, really, because the Bible was given in a certain context, what it does is it gives us the language of bringing about a utopian or messianic or Edenic related to Eden world. It gives us the language that, I don't know all the languages of the earth, but I haven't found any other language that gives us these tools, that gives us the ability to discuss these things. That's what you get from the Bible. In any case, going on to more simple things, his house, his employees, his oxen, or anything that he owns, your friend, he, she, again, English doesn't have, Hebrew doesn't have either. Can't claim that Hebrew's better in this. A generic term for, Hebrew does use the word Adam, man. We define it as man. It doesn't mean man. It means earthling, earth thing, from the earth. An earth god. That's what the word Adam really means. But not God with a capital G, lowercase g. Us, each of us humans, is God. Lowercase g. We don't have a word for it in English, and if we're going to go with pronouns, we have no pronoun in any language for discussing something that's neither male. That's a problem. I wish we had one. Unfortunately, it's not really going to come from the extremists who have all their very, very wild gender ideas. I don't know. We got to get one that isn't it. Otherwise, we got to use it. So your other person, your re'im, your friend, again, need that word too, don't want their things. Don't try to get their things. Don't covet their things. Don't want anything. And here's something where, when it says that Abraham had a whole bunch of kids that he sent off to the east with gifts, brilliant in the Bible. In the Bible, it discusses at great length Ishmael, and it discusses at great length Isaac. And then afterwards it says, Abraham married a woman called Keturah. Keturah means a pleasant scent. And he had a whole bunch of kids, Midan, Madian, Yaktan, a whole bunch of kids, and he sent them off to the east with gifts. This is indicating to us that there's a lot coming out of the east of that area. Basically, we're talking about the Hindu and Buddhist countries that have a lot to say to us. We keep our biblical tradition, but we don't reject wisdom and insight from elsewhere either. And the idea of not having desire. That's why it says loy sachmoid and loy sesave. Don't have chemed, don't have a pleasure in, a desire for, but also don't desire. Loy sesave, don't even want it. The Buddhists were not wrong when they said that attachment causes pain. You shouldn't need anything more than you actually need in the moment. Give us this day our daily bread, or like the manna that was given each day. If you're alive now, you can be happy now. What's the only thing keeping people unhappy? Thinking about the future, thinking about the past. If physically you are not in pain at this moment, you're fine, you're great. You can appreciate life as God intended. What keeps you from that is wanting things. Lo yisaveh, don't want. Unfortunately, having tried something like that, there's no security, and you end up in situations that are not that great, because our system is, as mentioned, not that great. Nonetheless, as a system of not wanting, we would not be wrong. We would not be wrong to look to people like the ancient Stoics, some of them anyway, to look to people like the Buddhists, the Taoists, some Hindus, some others not, to look to various communities outside, from the East, that have had some, or the Stoics are from the West technically, but that had some intelligent things to say about not wanting. In India, among Hindus, there are people called sannyasin. The sannyasin are at some point in your life, you surrender everything. You're no longer a father. You're no longer a husband. You're no longer a worker. You let go of your name. everything, and you just exist. You just go from place to place, just being you. If people feed you, you eat. If they don't feed you, you die. Fortunately, in India, they have this custom of feeding these mendicants, these sannyasin. They have a custom that that's the right thing to do. And that's how you can have these incredibly special people, a few of whom I've met in America. I have been, in some times of my life, such a person as well. But I've met others as well. And the glow from their personality is just overwhelming. Overwhelming. Due to my travels, people often ask me, who are the most incredible people you've met? And one of my go-tos is a guy from a place called Baghdad, Arizona, who was turning his wheelchair into an airplane at the airport, like actually for real. And just that was his thing. He was in his 80s, and he set up his wife and his kids. And in a few years, if he lives, he's going to get on his wheelchair and fly off. Not a joke. He actually knows how to fly. He's made planes. This is serious. And it didn't actually have, well, it had wheels because it's a little plane, but literally that's what it was. This guy who can hardly walk. And he's one of the most incredible people that I've met. Don't know his name, don't care. I usually don't even ask people their names. Don't want, don't need. You're great as it is. Your existence is godly as it is. That's the end of the Ten Commandments. The next one is going to be the conclusion. We're going to read through it all, including the introduction parts, the introduction sentences, and the final sentences. And then I'm going to read to you chapter 48 from Isaiah. I think it's 48. I'll have to double check. And that is what's read on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the holiest day of the Jewish year, read in all the synagogues. And if you want to know how far we've fallen, ask your average ultra-Orthodox Jew, or any kind of Orthodox Jew, someone who goes to synagogue every day. Ask her, ask him. Tell me anything about the section read from Isaiah on the high holidays. Well, if 10% can tell you what it is, even though they're fasting, they're there, it's focus. If they can tell you anything about it, that'll be very, very good. I hope you'll find 10% who can. We're going to read that. That is a modern, and it's modern because the Bible's older than this, although it's about 2,500 years old. No, a little more than that. About 25, probably this section of Isaiah was written around 520 BC approximately, probably around the time of Zechariah writing. So that's more modern than the Ten Commandments, which goes back another 1,000 years about. But it speaks to us very, very, very clearly. It speaks to our world and our society. That's the best review of the Ten Commandments I can think of.